Should we introduce ourselves? Yeah, my name is Russell Wallace. I come from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, and I'm a traditional singer and composer. And I was first exposed to the arts, I guess, when I was born, because my mom was a traditional singer and she was always singing. So there was always singing in our house, and that's what I grew up with. In terms of other performing arts stuff, I didn't really see a professional play until I was in grade 8, I guess. So, which was really interesting because I never thought I would enjoy watching a play, but I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. People actually are, paid to be an actor or paid to be a sound person or paid to do this. And I'm like, and then dance later on. So like there was always music in our house. That was the main arts that I was exposed to.
My name's Tony Wilson. I grew up in Ottawa. I was born in Vancouver, but my parents moved to Ottawa when I was about 5, and I stayed there till I left home when I was 17. I guess my first exposure to the arts was going to rock shows, rock concerts at the Ottawa Civic Center. And saw a lot of music as a very, from about the time I was 12, I started going to them. And I saw a lot of bands in the next 5 years. Because basically every weekend there was a band, like I saw Sly and the Family Stone, I think that was my second band, and just numerous bands, and we went to every show. And there was a lot of things about it that I loved. Obviously it was like going somewhere with all your buddies, and of course it was the early 70s, so we were taking drugs, and it was kind of a tribal thing. You felt you were part of something. So that was really my exposure, and I didn't have any exposure to any other arts other than music when I was young. My father was a musician at one time, so he was a jazz guy. My mother was a country and western fan. She loved Elvis, so I heard a lot of that music constantly around the house. But mostly it was rock and roll and the blues specifically that were probably influential to me, even though I didn't really start playing the guitar till later. So.
Tillicum Shantie comes from the Chinook language. So Tillicum means people, and Shantie means song or music. The Chinook language jargon, different ways of saying that term, I guess. But it was spoken by a lot of people. It was a trade language. It was spoken by a lot of people on the West Coast, like from BC down, through Washington State and Oregon and whatnot. And what it did is it borrowed words from other languages to, create a wider vocabulary. And so, so I thought, it was an important language, 200 years ago, and nobody really knows what it is now. It's like, it's very, one of the words that's left over from that is skookum. Everybody, out here knows what skookum means. And but that comes from the Chinook language.
So the Chinook language was a language of not necessarily one particular tribe, but it encompassed many, like an area more. Like, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. Is it it's spoken by many tribes in some way, or I don't know.
Yeah, there's variations on it, and there is a language in southern Washington State called the Chinook language, which is an actual language and people. So the Chinook jargon was, I know my great-grandfather was fluent in it, and he actually wrote in it, and so he was, wrote the language letters to different people in the language there, and with the fur trade and the gold rush, people learned this jargon, and that's how they spoke to, the Indigenous people, because a lot of the Indigenous people already knew that language, and so.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's very interesting. I never knew that. Well, interestingly, I was just asking Russell about this because I was wondering when we first did collaborate, and I think and we agree that it was a project Russell was involved in. There was other people involved. I didn't really know Russell, but basically it was a play about Mildred Bailey, who is a great Native American singer who was very well known in the 30s, I think the late 20s too. So that was our initial, and I think from that experience, because I think we rehearsed for a week or something, right? Every day. It was kind of like being a musician, you're not used to that kind of schedule. It's like, 6-hour days or something. You're like, what are we going to do for 6 hours? But you guys were writing the play, or the writers were writing it, and so that was an interesting thing. But I think the most important part was we met each other, and we both loved the music of Jim Pepper. A great Native American saxophonist, dancer, singer, very famous from the mid 60s till he passed in 92, and I think was really influential to my approach to the music that we play. I mean, maybe you could talk about Jim a bit and his influence on you.
Yeah, I think it's important to acknowledge those people who contributed a lot to jazz, a lot to any musical form. And Jim Pepper certainly was one of those people who contributed a lot to the jazz community, as well as Mildred Bailey. And so for me, Jim Pepper, I remember hearing Wichitaito, like when I was really young. I heard it on the radio and I was like, what is that? And I never found out until like later in life, and I came across the record and heard it, and this is what I heard. This is what really impacted me. I was like, finally I get to hear it again, and because I love the song, and I knew, just hearing the harmonies in that and hearing the chord progressions, I was just like, this is really amazing. And so, but yeah, that really had a big impact on how I view like my music. How does my traditional music fit into jazz? How does it fit into all these other musical genres? I guess it's like, but I mean, it's the same with Mildred Bailey. It's like when I first heard her voice, it's like, that sounds like my mom. Like when she sings it, it's when she sang traditional music, or any of the Salish elder women, like they would sing really high, and and so when I first heard Mildred, I was like, where is she from? Yeah. Yeah. And so, when I heard Mildred was Salish, I was like, okay, I got to do more research. And so that's where that project came about. It was like doing research, and I got some funding to do, workshop a musical based on her life. And I learned so much about her. And I think, even today, like jazz singers, I think emulate a lot of what she initiated back in the 30s and 40s. And, because I know she was a direct influence on Bing Crosby and a direct influence on Tony Bennett. And so like, but also, Frank Sinatra to some extent. So, her impact, but I mean, it's just not only her singing style, but her ear. Like she really, knew who good singers were, and she basically convinced CBS Records, is that the to sign Billie Holiday. So like she had the ear, she had the influence in the jazz community at that time. But so like the impact of Jim Pepper, the impact of Mildred Bailey on today's jazz is really important, and it's a lot of it's being kind of forgotten, and I think that's a really sad thing.
Piote hoenda yana wana wo piote hoenda yana wana wo piote hoenda yana wana wo pianane hele no way. Piote hoenda yana wana wo piote hoenda yana wana wo piote hoenda yana wana wo pianane no way. Wichita Kimara Hora Nico Hora Ne Wichita Kimara Hora Nico Hora Ne Hora Nico Hora Ne Hora Nico Hora Ne Hora Nico Hora Ne Wichita Kimara Hora Nico Hora Ne no way. Water spirit feelings bringing round my head makes me feel glad that I'm not dead. Wichita